Chat GPT is making homeschool planning 100 times easier. I've been spending the last few weeks trying to figure out how I can really utilize this artificial intelligence in my homeschool planning, and I have been blown away by what this program can actually do. Hi, I'm Stacey with Kids Learning for Life, and if you didn't know, Chat GPT is created by OpenAI, and it is an AI language model that can hold a conversation with you. This means you can type in a question or a prompt, and Chat GPT will generate a response based on what it has learned from the huge amounts of data that it has been trained off of. Basically, it's like having a conversation with a really smart friend that won't get annoyed by you constantly asking questions. I'll get into a few notes of caution about this program at the end of the video, but first, let's see how we can use Chat GPT to help us plan English language arts. Chat GPT can create from scratch multiple choice questions, discussion questions, or even writing prompts for you to give to your students. Oh, and it'll even give you the answers to those problems, which is just, it blew me away when I first saw this. So all I need to do is type in discussion questions for Island of the Blue Dolphins, push enter, and then it will just start typing. It is incredible. So for this example, it says, what is the setting of the Island of Blue Dolphins? What is the main character, Karina's relationship with her tribe and her family? And it's just gonna keep on going. And if you need the answers, all you have to do is type in, can you give me the answers for these prompts? And it will give you answers. And this process works exactly the same for multiple choice questions or even writing prompts. Now, how does this help us as homeschool teachers? Well, it's replacing study guides. You no longer need to go scrounging the internet to try and figure out what the book's about if you've never read it before, which that's constantly something we as homeschoolers have to deal with, is we are trying to give our kids quality books, and we may not have been able to read those ourselves. So we need to know what the book's about as well, and sometimes we don't always have time to read through the entire book, let alone be able to come up with our own discussion questions and quizzes and things of that nature. Speaking of trying to figure out what a book is about, you can actually just ask ChatGPT to give you a summary of a book. So I'm going to ask it to give me a summary of Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, and there it goes. It just starts typing away, letting you know what it's about. And it goes even deeper. If I wanted to know exactly what happens in chapter 5, I just ask it, and there it goes. It's going to give me a summary of that specific chapter. The possibilities are literally endless that you can ask ChatGPT about a certain book. I've used it to ask about age ranges or even reading levels to see if it is even an appropriate book for my child at this present moment. Now, if your child just absolutely loves to read and you're having a hard time coming up with books that you want them to read, you can even ask ChatGPT to give you a list of book recommendations. So I actually used this recently to try and see if it could come up with some living book recommendations for my 4th grader, and it gave me a list of things like The Secret Garden, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, Charlotte's Web, The Magician's Nephew. All of these, I have seen different versions of them on Charlotte Mason type sites that are recommending living books. But I didn't have to go searching the internet. I literally just typed in the question and this list appeared for me. You can even create a list based on something that your child is interested in. For example, my 4th grader is really into dragons, so I can type in book series with dragons for a 4th grader, and it's gonna give me a list. It has things like The Dragon Slippers, Aragon, which we have started reading, How to Train Your Dragon, Dragon Keeper, and if that's not a big enough list, you can have it give you even more if you don't like any of those suggestions. Really, the more specific you are here, the better your results are going to be. English language arts was really the area that I found the most uses for ChatGPT, but you can even use this for math help. You can type in a math problem, push enter, and have it give you the answer. And if the answer it gives you doesn't quite make sense to you, you can even ask it to break down each step for you in simpler terms so that you can get a better idea of what is supposed to be happening with this problem. Also, if there's a word you don't understand, like in this problem it wants you to distribute and you're not quite sure what distribute means, then you can have it break it down even further. I mean, the possibilities are endless to really ask it question after question to try and gain more understanding. This can be really helpful if you are just a little rusty rusty with your math and you're trying to help your student and you're just not quite sure of which steps to take in which order, this can definitely help you out there. Jumping over to science and history, Chat GPT is a great source of information to ask a question and receive an answer back. For example, my kiddos are learning about taxonomy and the different organization of the animals, so I went ahead and asked, what is taxonomy? And it gave me a response, very thorough, very a little bit complex in certain ways. So in order to help me simplify this information for my 3rd and 4th grader, I asked ChatGPT to speak to me like I'm a 3rd or 4th grader. I push enter and it starts re-saying the same information it was telling me and breaking it down into something that a 3rd grader might be able to understand a little bit easier. Now, I did want to mention that with any product or app or program, you really do want to be careful of the accuracy here. ChatGPT even says right on its website that it can give wrong and misleading and biased information, and it's just constantly having to learn and adapt, so it's not perfect. Now that you know how you can use ChatGPT for specific subjects, how can you use it for general teaching and lesson planning? Well, the sky's really the limit here as to what you want to be looking for. You can have ChatGPT write you out a full lesson plan. I asked it if it could give me an 8-week lesson plan on how to teach my child to read, and it provided me with a lesson plan. Now, whether this is the best method or not, again, use caution when using these types of things. I can't say that it's going to totally replace a really good curriculum, but if you are just wondering what kind of the general steps are, like what does your kid need to know in order to learn to read, this can be a great resource. And again, with any of ChatGPT's responses, and here in this example, it even says, it's important to remember that each child learns at their own pace, so feel free to adjust the plans as needed. So even ChatGPT is giving its own little disclaimers to the responses it gives. Now, when you're looking for curriculum ideas or activity ideas, you can ask ChatGPT as well. I asked it for some math activities to go along with the Island of the Blue Dolphins, and I was actually surprised on the topics, just giving me some ideas for different topics that relate to math that I could incorporate with a unit study. Measurement and conversion, map skills, budgeting and resource management, all things that relate back to the book. And it already knows that and is telling me that I can utilize activities on those topics. But don't go yet. I want to make sure that you understand a few other notes about this program to make sure that you are fully aware of what it is capable of doing. I went ahead and asked ChatGPT to write me a 3-paragraph essay about how dogs are better than cats. So that was pretty impressive to me. I've even had it write an essay and include citations and a works cited page and everything. And I was blown away that it was able to do this. But here's something that I thought was just very odd, that I could ask it to write that same essay in a 1-paragraph response as a 1st grader, and it totally could do it. And this was really, really eye-opening to what this program really can do. So not only can it just write an essay, but it can tailor the essay in any way you want. If you want it to be more conversational, if you want it to be more professional, you can ask it to write you anything. Now, technology like this is going to change education. For better or worse, I'm not the person to judge that right now. I'm trying to be optimistic and utilize it in the best way for me and in my homeschool, but what it holds for the future, I don't have a crystal ball. So it's extremely important that we are always preparing our children for the future. And really, the only thing I can think of is I want my children to love learning, not just while they're in school, not just while they're, less than 18, but for their entire life. You need to learn for life, hence the name of this channel, to be able to, when the world changes, because it's inevitably going to, they will be able to pivot and be able to learn the new technology they need to learn in order to be successful in life later on. So for now, I don't recommend that it's used for students, but definitely it can be used as a tool with teachers, just with some caution, knowing that it may not always be 100% accurate. But if you do have any ideas on how students can use ChatGPT, be sure to put that in the chat and I'll be sure to read through those. Now, it definitely looks like our world is going in a more technologically savvy direction. So if you want your child to be able to be behind the scenes in all this technology, you may want to introduce them to coding and how computers work. So you can check out my video about free resources for how to teach your child to code right there. And until then, see you next time and happy homeschooling.